So grateful to be here and very happy to discuss these incredibly important and hard to talk about topics. He has an incredible backbone and staggering moral fiber. Howie is totally committed, completely ethical, totally admirable. No pressure if you can hear this, but honestly, Howie's a hero to me.
John, you joined us before, and it was a pretty incredible kind of testimony you gave, and you just devoted your life to advocacy for child trafficking, and even 9/11 truth. Maybe you could explain to us, in the last decade, what do you think the most challenging parts of coming alive on some of these issues have been?
Probably the hardest thing, and it continues, is just realizing that pretty much everything that I was told and taught since I was in grade school is probably not true.
You can probably hear me. You're going to have to say good evening because I can't hear you. Thank you.
You can't hear me?
And whoever's messing with our connection. I'll try to call back in, Howie.
All right, John. Good evening, everybody. Let's see what happens in a second. John and I sometimes. Can you hear me, man? Can you hear me, John?
I can even hear you. Yeah. Good evening.
Oh, fantastic.
I missed you.
Yeah, you missed me. I was just talking. I was just talking to you for half an hour.
Yeah, I know, but still. I meant from last week when.
I missed you more because let me tell you something. It's kind of like a phone conversation. You can shoot the breeze for an hour on the phone if you have conversation going back and forth. For an hour just talking, it's a completely different. it's a completely different, and I knew it was a completely different thing. So I struggled through on Thursday.
Thank you, and I still feel guilty if it makes you feel.
Oh no, I don't think the world changed much whether because of Thursday's broadcast. No, it's just an interesting learning experience to talk by yourself for an hour, and people that do a podcast by themselves, I have the utmost respect for them because for me, it's just not an easy thing to do. When you have two or three people, it makes things just exponentially easier.
No Neil, no Honeybee. It must have been. I felt for you. I mean, I really do, and I think.
No, actually, I did ask a couple people, and I got rejected. I could ask more, and then I was just like, I don't know. I think there was a part of me that says, all right, let's try this yourself.
Yeah, I just want to say hi to. We've got actual live tweeting going on in our on the Twitter feed. Just say hi to Missy and De La Rose. They're already asking questions about the Scientology stuff and reminding us of Scientology things to bring up. Their creepy compound at Hemet, California. So thank you guys. I just want to give a shout out to them. But I digress. Back to your appalling experience last Thursday.
No. It wasn't appalling. It was, but it's definitely filling an hour of just yourself talking when you don't have soundboard of somebody else. It's difficult. It's definitely difficult.
Believe me, I felt for you, and I still do, and I'll do the best I can not to leave you hanging like that again.
Sorry. But I had some things I kind of wanted to get off my chest. I don't know if I got them across in the best possible way, but we were talking about it, and we'll probably get into it a little bit more tonight. And it was basically where I'm getting some feedback. What do you got going on? It sounds like you got chickens or something.
Not me, baby. It's quiet as a church.
Wow. Maybe it's, I don't know. But it's just
Scientology really, they're one of the organizations that actively fight back and against anybody or anything that's trying to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, no matter what it is. If you go at them with one, they come at you with 10.
Yeah. And my favorite, and I hope everybody watched tonight, and I've been watching, since the initial episode was about child rape. I mean, you had 2 victims on there, and Leah Remini, and I give all the kudos to her and that whole group of people, Mike Rinder, Tony Ortega, Amy Scobie, and many other people that are really exposing this and getting it out to people to know exactly what Scientology is, and it basically is a child abuse cult, and they're bringing that out, and it clearly, and we're going to talk about an FBI report that was done that proved they're at least human traffickers, and their witnesses that they deposed in this report. We put it in our Twitter line. Clearly, we're telling these agents that slave labor and human trafficking, bringing children in from other countries to work slave labor in their that place in Hemet, California, the Flag, which is located in St. Petersburg in Florida, or it's either St. Peter, Clearwater, I'm not sure, but
that's St. Petersburg.
Yeah, and they're, it's just, and I'll do a little bit of history tonight on kind of where this abortion came from and its founder, L. Ron Hubbard, a true freak. And I think we talked about this on part 1, that freak Jerry Sandusky smile. Those two could be brothers.
Well, I mean, I go by looks quite a bit, and I mean, all you have to do is take one look at L. Ron Hubbard, and it's gonna. He's going. He just has that. He just has a look about him that says that guy looks off. He just looks off. I don't know how. I don't know. Obviously, that doesn't hold up in a court of law. It doesn't mean anything. But the guy looks way off to me.
Yeah, and when you see, and please do the research. And one of the best sites to do that is called the Underground Bunker. And I think I just posted that on our Twitter line. Tony Ortega, investigative journalist, he's probably the premier investigative journalist that have been exposing them for years and years and years. And please go on there, and you can get the entire history and see all these old photographs and that dilapidated chunk of shit of a ship that they took all these young kids around supposedly the world in, and it was just a floating, child abuse and child rape haven. Just disgusting. And I mean, you see some of those pictures, man. And I mean, we're talking 11, 12-year-old kids. Just, a grown man, on a ship, with a couple hundred, and maybe more, I don't know, of these children,
God, do you know whose kids they were?
Members of Scientology. I mean, that's what they do. They when they bring people.
I thought that was before. Oh, I thought that was before. No, they're church members. That's how they get the kids. And what did we say before?
where do you find pedophiles? Where the children are. So they bring the parents into the organization. They immediately separate the children from the parents and country. I mean, there's been so many kids taken out since they're primarily based in the United States. They were taking children out of the UK, taking a lot of kids out of Australia. You know, a lot of the Scientology victims are in Australia now, and there's a few good people that are exposing that over there. But yeah, they're the Sea Org, which is their it's like they're supposed to be their clergy of this fraud church / cult, is basically a slave labor sub-organization of Scientology that runs all their facilities. They're basically almost empty buildings. I mean, they over-exaggerate their members. They've bought a lot of real estate. You know, they made a lot of money, but they're basically empty buildings, and these poor children are working 16-hour shifts. And read that FBI report. I mean, it goes into very good detail about how they bring these kids in from Australia and the UK. They take their passports. You know, I
got confused. Because I was reading about him and on a Wikipedia page. In 1932, he did something similar when he was in his final semester in college.
Yeah, that was probably a test run. He was. When you go into his history, I mean, it sounds like he was from a generational abuse family. They were naval. Yeah, they were in the United States Navy, not the not the fake Scientology Navy. But yeah, he had that. There was some
June of 1932. He took 50 young gentlemen rovers aboard schooner Doris Hamlin. Yeah. The aims of Caribbean motion picture expedition were stated as being to explore the film pirate strongholds and bivouacs of the Spanish Main, to collect whatever one collects in exhibits and museums. But it ran into trouble when it left the port of Baltimore. So I don't know what 50 young gentlemen rovers means, but
it's kind of like the explorers at Louisville Police Department, you know, something like that, or the city of LA. You know, they're being raped.
Hey, either way, the guy likes getting on boats with young guys.
Yeah. And from back then, and the most telling thing that I read about him, and it was out of his own writing, you know, so they really can't dispute it, though they'd like to, is that when he was 12 years old, I think this is like in the 1920s, maybe. He writes about being taken to sex lectures by Sigmund Freud by a Navy captain. You know, not his parents, just some older, Navy captain, which is just weird, man. And that's, we've found this by, our research and some of it that we've done. This is generational. You know, it's infiltrated in the military. It's infiltrated in the highest levels of the government, these prep schools. I mean, it's all interwoven and interrelated, a just big web of shit, basically. But that's where he, I think was ruined and was then used. The some people know this, some people don't, but the United States Navy, one of their sub-organizations is the Office of Naval Intelligence, and they've been involved in some very, very awful things. And I'm not saying that all the people that work in the Office of Naval Intelligence are involved in these things or that it's a bad organization, but just like the CIA and the FBI, they're a deep state. And part of the deep state, as we know, has been organizing child trafficking rings. And that's basically what it looks like Scientology was engineered to do. It's basically a huge organization where people are compromised by the very procedures that they follow. They have them, tell all their deepest, darkest secrets. It sounds like George Bush in the coffin, at Skull and Bones, But it's the same thing. Only Hubbard used this little, 2 tin cans, hooked up to an ohm meter, and they mind control these people into telling them their worst secrets, and then they're compromised, and they use it against them. They take their children. I mean, and the bond between a parent and a child for most people, is unbreakable. And just to see these, and Leah's bringing this out, and the show is, and Tony has, and other people and other victims and survivors that have come forward. They are so mind controlled, and they are blackmailed and so isolated. It's typical cult procedure, and that's why these people put up with this shit for years, until they some of them are adults before they just had enough. Those 2 victims that were on I think the first show was called in Leah's Scientology in the Aftermath. It was Thetans and Small Children or something like that. And these Thetans are these imaginary demons that you're supposed to exorcise by using these meters and all this weird procedures that they do, and they're basically just to get dirt on people and then to hold it over their head. And I mean, the CIA does this, it's human compromise. I mean, it's at its most basic. But you had, and we were talking before this, and you had and we're all kind of here, we're here, and we've got a president that has made some efforts to, try to stop this. We've got a attorney general that I think has been a complete failure as far as what he has actually done, and it's like and now as we're seeing, we're getting survivors coming forward and stories, and even on mainstream TV, A&E, Scientology in the Aftermath, you've got 2 victims that are able to now. Because the statute of limitations does not run out on child rape. And hopefully what will happen is that they will prosecute or get these cases prosecuted. And that's what I'm hoping the show does, puts enough pressure on the Department of Justice that they, instead of doing this, it was a real good investigation done by honest agents, but instead of burying it like they did of that report that we were talking about and that's on, everybody can read, it needs to be a real investigation, and then they need to put these people behind bars, because it's not only the single offenders and the child rapists, within their organization. It's the organization as a whole that's covering this up, fostering it, and making it possible. So, but I know you had some thoughts on where we are, and it's awful frustrating to see all this. We have all this information, and it's like, well, what? Talk about that.
Well, I mean, you're about to present another case that the FBI has information, has hardcore evidence, and and once again, it just basically it seems to like disappear. You're not hearing any feedback?
No.
Wow. Actually, I'm gonna call back in. You talk for a second, okay?
I'll talk amongst myself.
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Is that you, Ron? Is that the ghost of Ron Hubbard interfering with our broadcast? Maybe it's Tom Cruise, Kirstie Alley, one of those people, or good old David Miscavige. Nobody's seen his wife in a very long time. Leah had the temerity to file a missing persons report, and the LAPD insists that she's fine. Hey, you're back. Did that cure it?
I'm back. I'm listening. Yeah, I think so.
Yay.
No, but there was definitely like, it wasn't our conversation. It was like something else going on in the background.
The ghost of L. Ron. Well, he hung out with the Church of Satan people and Michael Aquino, that monster. So yeah, but go ahead. You were gonna, you were talking about, we have all this evidence, but when is something actually concrete about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the finders was one of the most solid things. You you're an expert on that. And, they had, these guys caught in Florida, and they had the children, and they had all the evidence, and it was all presented. And then somebody, you said the CIA put the kibosh on it, right?
Yeah, read it. It's right documented in the Treasury report. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's like as we have all this stuff, and even things that we've talked about on the show, and we're talking about like massive organizations, Boy Scouts, USA Gymnastics, different schools, obviously the Catholic Church,
obviously.
At what point or how are we going to get, because I feel as though that even if we had, evidence, like anything, anything can be covered up. Anything can be whitewashed. Anything can be made to go away. And the only way to stop that is, once again, is people getting together and saying, enough is enough. We're not going to let this happen. Now, the difference between social media and actually physically being in the streets or being in front of a building is very, very, very different. Because because obviously we can talk about things, until we're blue in the face, pretty much, or until you get suspended or shadow banned.
We have, haven't we?
But and they can ignore it because with the things that we know, obviously people in high places know about this stuff, and
absolutely they do. Absolutely.
At some point, our strategy is going to have to change in general if we're really going to, put a dent in this. And it can't be 5 people, it can't be 10 people, it can't be 100 people, So it's just something that other people have expressed frustrations, and
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm still getting crazy feedback on my end. I don't know. Drive me nuts.
Thank you, L. Ron. Or maybe it's Tom Cruise. Maybe he's in your neighborhood with one of those devices.
Well, that Miscavige. What's his name? Miscavige?
Miscavige.
Miscavige. Yeah, I'm sure.
God, what a piece of work he is, and he's, that guy is like, all he is an opportunist. An evil opportunist. I mean, he had nothing to do with founding it as an organization, the evil intent in their policies and procedures. He just wanted to steal the crown when Hubbard died, and that's all he did. I mean, and other than participating in it, which is a crime, being the CEO of an organization that covers up child rape. Yeah, he's definitely prosecutable, but just he's just I mean, Hubbard was the architect of evil. He's just a do boy.
Well, I mean, hiding behind religion is one of the best things that any organization can do, because once you get that religious organization slapped on your title, or however it works. Everybody's very careful about going after quote unquote religious organizations. It's almost like you're attacking God or something,
Yes, Xenu, and God, but in Scientology's case, Xenu. Do you know the Xenu story?
No, I do not. But
okay, well, and there's a for our listeners, go to Xenu. It's xenu.net, and that is the god of Scientology, and he's from another galaxy, and these thetans that they use all this auditing to get out of children, that are just being children. These are souls that that died, I don't know, thousands or millions of years ago, and were brought to the earth and dropped into volcanoes, Howie. And they manifest themselves in human beings, and we, if Scientology had anything to say about it, we probably have many Thetans in us, especially us two talking about them. So we would have to undergo like electroshock or something, I think. But
tell me more. Yeah. I'm ready to go join.
That's just, and they have these children sign a 1 billion-year contract to serve the Sea Org, to be indentured slaves, to the Sea Organization, which is their, that's their clergy. I mean, that's how it's screwed up.
Who makes this shit up? Who makes this shit up?
L. Ron Hubbard is who made it up. And he was a marginally successful science fiction writer. So.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that's what it sounds like. It's like, listen, I'm not making that much money off the books. Maybe I can do better as a religion.
And I wish it was that simple. I really do. But it's so complex, and the people that he rubbed elbows with, and it's so identical to like Jonestown and
sure, yeah. Those cults, they all repeat themselves in one form or another. They tweak the names and the places and the certain aspects, but generally when it comes down to it, it's all it's all the same.
Yeah, and we had the same. Who the only guy who got out of Jonestown alive, or one of the few? CIA station chief in.
We'll have to get in it. I mean, I know about Jonestown, and you started talking about the CIA stuff. I mean, I've studied it, and I started studying it back in the '80s when I was in middle school. Don't ask why, but.
I'll tell you, and I'll recommend this too, because when you're on YouTube looking for the replay of this show, as hopefully some people are doing, and a shout out to Tim Hotham, and we're still in the process of doing our marathon with Tim, and we haven't found time to do that. I haven't, but that's upcoming, where we're going to have Tim back on either a live Periscope or YouTube Live, and hear some more of that. What I think is one of the key cases that, if it were prosecuted, would bring this garbage down. But at any rate, I forgot totally what I was saying. The train.
A shout out to you were ready to do a shout out to Tim.
It was a shout out to Tim, but there was some point to that I guess has been lost in the haze of my two brain cells. So I'm multitasking here. I'm sending and a shout out to Jules. I hope she's doing better. And I was just in the process of sending our show links. That will be on YouTube. Oh yes, YouTube. That was the point. Okay, when you're on YouTube, looking for our replay, go to her. The woman's name was Mae Brussel, and she was also a journalist who ran her own. I think it was on FM radio show for 20 years or more. And she dissected all of this. I mean, she had the goods on Jonestown, the CIA, the Kennedy. I mean, this woman was plugged into everything. And it was all, and in those days, you had to, get newspaper articles and copy them. And this woman must have, got newspapers from all over the United States, because every week, she had all, you didn't have an internet then. She had all these sourced articles, and people could, send in, and she would send them copies. The woman was amazing. I mean, just a saint. But if you want to understand what the CIA was doing with Jim Jones, listen to her broadcast. And it's the Mae Brussel Archive. It's on UCY on YouTube. And do yourself a favor. Anything. I mean, it's not just Jonestown. I mean, there's like 200 or 300 episodes on there. And anything you want to know about the deep state, it's there. So I remembered.
I am so impressed.
Me too.
Yeah. You want to jump into this FBI report?
Yeah, well, and let me just finish up with Hubbard. Basically. So anyway, you've got probably a guy who's in a naval family. His father was in the Navy. I believe his father was in the Navy. So you probably have, he's going to Sigmund Freud lectures at 12 with some adult male, that's in the Navy. So my take on that, after the experience that I have, that he was in a generational abuse family. So that's how they do it at the prep schools. They abuse these kids, and then they put them through Harvard, and then they're in the School of Government, the Kennedy School of Government, and then they're your elected officials or your bureaucrats. I mean, it's a worldwide grooming scheme for pedophilia. So at any rate, he goes through this, and he tries his little experiment, you talked about, and then he wants to make it as a science fiction writer. And I think this was going on at the whole time. The whole Scientology thing was probably being designed not by him. I'm thinking that higher ups in naval intelligence, deep state, CIA, whatever, we're designing this matrix for what could eventually be a religion. And it came on the scene, and handy for him, he was a science fiction writer, because it was pure science fiction. Especially when you get to, I think it costs you like $150,000 to get to this point, but they reveal to you, they don't tell you this going in the door, that their supreme being is from another galaxy, and all the guys in the volcanoes. And I think they were dropped by DC-9s. It was like a special aircraft that had to drop them in. I don't know how you do that from a DC-9. I mean, and of course, Howie, they don't tell you this up front. You go, yeah, you pay, like $25,000, and then $50,000, and then, $75,000. And Leah's brought all this stuff out too in her show. But so then you get to this point, and they tell you, oh, well, and at that point, what do you do with that information? You've been mind controlled for years by this point. You've been paying these scumbags, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's how they trap people, because people feel so dumb at this point, for being fooled. Either they believe it, like Tom Cruise, and if you look at this guy and you look at any of the videos that are available, I mean, this guy, there's nobody home. I mean, he is just total mind control slave to, the cult. And so you get to this point, and so at any rate, Hubbard debuted it in the 50s, and it caught on. He wrote some books, and they just used we talked about it, Bernays and all those guys, they used public relations to sell this cult, and it worked tremendously well, and up to present day, and they're worth what, $3 billion at least, I think.
Well,
something like that.
That's what she says, but there's no way, if you're a religious organization, nobody can audit your books. So
yeah, and it's clearly,
which is absurd, which is absolutely absurd that they don't have to file anything, because I mean, if you have tax exempt status, you should still report what you're taking in, what your assets are.
Yeah, and they're not accountable to anybody. Just like the Catholic Church, just like some of the other churches. And actually, what I want to talk about too, we have some people that are following the Traffick report and on the Twitter feed, and we're finding about some other religious organizations that are involved in similar type behavior. And I hope these people and everybody listening know that this is a forum. If you want to come on here and talk about it, tweet about it, whatever you want to say about it, because it's not. And I tweeted out, well, if you think that the Catholic Church is the only church involved in child rape, think again. And we've got the fake church, Scientology, and a lot of these the Mormon Church, these offshoots of that they just pulled two guys over in the desert with van loads of children. I think that was in New Mexico. Do you remember that, Howie?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I don't know what church that was, but oh man, did you see those people? I'll pull that up.
My God. While you're pulling that up, I'll talk about the Mormons, and obviously the LDS is involved in child rape. Obviously, there's splinter groups. The Warren Jeff type people are definitely involved. I mean, they're marrying 10-year-old kids, and raping 10-year-old kids. I mean, it's a culture, and how this is allowed, and how that church is allowed to, maintain tax exempt status and the power that they wield in Utah and other places, and good old Mitt Romney, that puke, and they're raping kids. That's what they do. And they want to distance themselves from Warren Jeffs. So where do you think Warren Jeffs got his ideas? LDS. Okay. So these huge religions are just fronts for child rape. So think about that, and whatever church you choose to attend, I hope you're asking some questions and paying very close attention to what they, how they operate, and how children are involved in any of these churches, because I don't trust any of them. I don't trust anybody from what I've from our research and just from the people that have been on here. So.
Oh. And people in authority that are above questioning. I mean, they're, they take advantage of that stuff, and it's in my opinion, it's definitely happening in way more churches. Yeah,
like I said, where do you find the pedophiles? Look for the kids. They're
Yeah, and now
USA
they have
gymnastics, football, the Explorers, the Boy Scouts.
On a quick side note, I was riding my bike to my friend's house, and I passed this Catholic church not too far from my house, and it was about a month ago, maybe a little bit longer, and they had like a summer daycare going on, and it wasn't, it was out on the lawn or whatever, and kids playing in the pool, and it looked like they just had like the summer camp workers or whatever. But I'm like, who the hell in their right mind would send their children to a Catholic church?
Yeah. Or anywhere. I mean, go back, go listen to our archive.
But I'm just saying, based on their track record, and I know people like to think it's a few bad apples, but holy smokes, man.
Well, you could say the same thing about, what was there, 5,000 reports of this in the Boy Scouts, the Explorer program, USA Gymnastics, for God's sake. I mean, hundreds and hundreds, Then to me, their track record's done. I mean, Penn State University, Michigan State, Indiana University that houses the Kinsey Institute. We're surrounded, Howie. We're literally.
Right, I was looking for this thing because I knew it had just a bizarre kind of name. It's called the Aggressive Christianity Missions Training Corps.
Wow.
That's the church. The Aggressive Christianity Missions Training Corps. And if you go to their website, it's half religious, half like military-ish. I mean, it's unbelievable.
The worst of both worlds.
I mean, yeah, aggressive. Yeah,
and I don't know.
Note to self: any religious organization that the first word is aggressive.
Yeah, I don't know. I've read parts of the Jesus's teachings, and aggression just is nowhere in there. Maybe it was just the way I read it. I don't know.
Anybody can find this at aggressivechristianity.net. Aggressivechristianity.net.
And people, and I hope, and I know you're like that, Howard, because you'll call out there and say, yeah, so what is up with your organization? Everybody should be doing that. We've got I don't know, 700 followers. The Traffic Report 1, another 400 or 500 Traffic Report 2. That's about 1,000 people that follow you, people that follow me. If you got some time on your hands, pick up your phone, call these assholes, let them know somebody knows what they're doing. I don't think there's we shake the bushes enough.
No, you know,
it's just me. I love when you call. Call C-SPAN and
yeah. Well, you know, and for people, I mentioned that on Thursday, and I sort of need to get it out there. I mean, anybody, I think maybe people even are a little afraid to pick up their phone at times just because, they don't want their phone tapped or, NSA. But man, like last week I called the FBI and their Freedom of Information, department. And, I of course, you always have to leave a message. Nobody ever picks up a phone, by the way. Nobody is ever in the office, especially when it comes to public information type things. But anyway, the woman did call me back, and I was just basically asking her, what the determination was that the Hillary Clinton investigation, documents couldn't be released, due to a lack of public interest, and I wanted to know how they determined the public interest. And it was just another one of these back and forths that she can't comment on a specific case. I would just have to read the press release. And I said, okay. Well, then I said, all right, don't about that case. I said, how do you determine public interest? I can't give out that information. I'm sorry. I'm like, you're not. What do you mean you're sorry? You're sitting here. You're sitting here stonewalling me doing your job. You're not fucking sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And just while we're talking, there people are live tweeting, and it's great to see that. And Sticky Hammer presents some great information in our Twitter line. Amy Estep Lake, and also De La Rose and Missy. They're talking about Hubbard and the Red Shoes Club in London, which is another of these satanic ritual abuse, and just go or duck go the Red Shoes Club if you want to find out about that. But yeah, and Hubbard had all these connections. He was connected with Anton LaVey. He was and Google, you want to, LaVey was bad enough. He was kind of the clown prince of Satanism. But somebody who's serious as a heart attack, who was the chief of the Temple of Set in San Francisco, was Michael Aquino. And duck, go, Michael Aquino. If you want to see evil incarnate, and I still haven't been able to find it. I think he's working with dark matter now is the deal. But he graduated from the child rape and incidents like the Presidio and military intelligence and the Franklin scandal and Offutt Air Force Base. This guy is just the worst. And interestingly enough, both him and L. Ron Hubbard imagine that they were, I guess, reincarnated Scots, and they've got their Aquino gave himself the title of a baron in Scotland, and apparently Hubbard was suffering from the same delusion that they were reincarnated souls of Scottish royalty or something. I mean, when you start to get into this, you see the parallels, and you're like, oh my God. But yeah, do yourself a favor, and thank you everybody for the Finders is also in there. Let me post. I'm going to post that link again to the U.S. Treasury report. And but I just wanted to thank everybody for their input, and we are reading it and listening to it. And you're our crowdsource, guys. You're that Twitter line and a lot of those Twitter feeds. Howie's hashtag Pedogate News. Please use that for any arrests. And you want to talk about the hashtag for a minute, Howie, while I get that Finders link out there?
Oh, well, we talked about it before. Just if you're, I think one of the best ways to, spread the message is arrests and convictions of pedophiles. So, if you come across a story, just put it to the hashtag, Pedogate News, and don't put anything else, just Pedogate News and the link to the story. So if somebody ever, wants to say, well, what evidence do you have that this is trafficking and sexual abuse is a big problem? you say, well, why don't you go check out this hashtag on Twitter? And then they can just read it as story after story after story after story after story. I mean, there's hundreds of them on there now. So it's like, how could there be hundreds of stories in the last month, and this is not bigger than we know about? Why is this not national news? Why is this not everywhere? Why aren't we doing more, about this? Because, people will just say it's isolated incidences, it's a few bad apples, it's a bunch of sickos, blah, 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 and not wanting to believe that more people are in on this than we could have imagined. So if we have all that information in one place and say, like, well, 1, 2, 3, teacher after teacher after teacher after teacher, So anyway.
Yeah, and we just keep doing it, and I would also encourage anybody listening or that's in our Twitter feed regularly to keep the information flowing. I mean, that's all we can do right now is to continue to expand. And please, anybody with information about Scientology and child rape in Scientology, or just slavery, the just the human trafficking aspect of it, or all the other illegal stuff that they're guilty of, get that information to Leah Remini. They have a team of lawyers now with that show, and they're serious as a heart attack, man. They're taking this as far as it can be taken, and they're putting pressure on the Justice Department. And so anybody listening that has any information about Scientology whatsoever that could be considered evidence, you're going to have to, we're talking about what do we do? You're going to have to come forward, and you're going to have to get this information out, because people have to go on the record. They're going to have to, insist that these criminals be prosecuted, and victims have a lot of, and survivors, have a lot of clout. They're and that's, in answering that question. And there's a couple of people that I'll give a shout out to, Des and Becky and V. They are on the forefront of telling their stories, getting this information out, and their own stories, and eventually this is going to lead to prosecutions, and when that starts to happen, then things will change. But you've got a great source, and please watch Scientology in the Aftermath. Particularly, it's all good. I mean, the first season was, and I knew, when that show came on the air, I said, I just know that there's child rape underneath, and that's the case. So please, you've got some crusaders out there, working to uncover this. Help them.
And just, along these lines, I mean, I just looked up the telephone number for the Church of Scientology. If something like this comes out, I mean, their phones should be ringing off the hook, man.
Yeah, really. Make a few phone calls for goodness.
Obviously they're not going to say anything.
Yeah.
But
I just love letting them know that
Yeah, make them pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Make them record a phone call. Bother them. Harass.
Yeah.
You're allowed to. They put their phone number out there. Shit.
Yeah. Until they hung up on me, I'd have a hell of it, and I probably will, because I'm like that too. I love to call and
sure
and bust balls. And whoever you talk to, say, do you know you're the member of an organization that is promoting and covering up child rape? What do you have to say about that? How do you, what do you think about that? You don't have to be nasty to them, but that's the truth of the matter. But, we're just, and we're not going to give up. And I know, I hear it. We've been doing this for a while, Howie, and I feel it like you do. It's frustrating. We've got all this information, and it's like, well, what are we doing? Is this doing any good? Is this? And I know it's done good, because people like V and Becky and now another person that, until she does what she does. I won't, I don't give out her handle or anything like that. But there are survivors coming forward, and I'm this is their forum. People like Tim Hotham, that have got on here that hasn't talked to anybody, has been carrying this crap around for 25 years. And the anniversary of his brother's death is coming up in a week or so. And this is those people's forum that they can come out and talk their mind, and we may, Tim will be our inaugural marathon because his case just demands it. But all these cases, I mean, people like Becky, people like V, people, any of these survivors, these stories are much bigger than we can cover in an hour twice a week, and you never know.
I mean, John, that. I mean, we'll never know. Probably never know the answer to this, but I would think that after all these months, since Pizzagate came out, and all the information on Pedogate and everything that's being talked about on social media, I would like to think that traffickers and the abusers have changed up a little bit, have not been so brazen, knowing that there's a lot of eyes, on this, probably in the first time in history.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
I would think so. I would think so.
When we're directing child rape tweets at the police department of the city of Louisville, when we're doing that to the organization that fronts for the Boy Scouts,
right?
What is it? Learning? I can't even remember their name. God,
I don't remember.
But yeah, that the CEO ignores 5 or 6 emails from the show asking her, what is your response to 5 explorers being raped, in a program that you oversee that has guidelines that are a joke,
And when they don't answer those questions, like what does that say about an organization?
Yeah, there's shit. And the guy
if somebody came to you and said, well, somebody in your, whatever has been, what are you going to do? Just sit there and say nothing?
Yeah. You had, okay, let's say I ran a,
sure.
I don't know, some sort of
restaurant.
Education. Yeah. A restaurant. Or say I had a school that taught children something, high school, whatever. And I get an email from somebody that says, you know what? 5 of your kids were raped. And I wouldn't even answer. Really? And this woman,
stand there and say nothing.
Yeah. This woman is paid hundreds of thousands of, maybe even $1 million a year to run, and that's all it is. Learning for life. Duck, go, those assholes. Yeah, the CEO, and send her some more email and say, well, why didn't you answer the traffic report that's been asking you about these kids that are being raped in the Explorer program in Louisville? Yeah, God damn. I'm getting mad, Howie.
I think that's part of the thing too. Like, people have, we have to start getting mad. We have to, everyone take a look at the network scene. And I want you to go to Windows and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. It doesn't necessarily have to be right now, but at some point it's getting evident, because I mean, when you watch the news cycle and everything that they are just throwing, the nonsense that they are throwing around every single day, we have to be able to cut through this in, strategically and say, wait a second. This is what's really going on, and it's going to take a lot of voices, and everyone's got to be loud.
Yep, and I mean, these fuckers. And I can't remember who A&E is. I can't even believe that A&E is allowing this show to get on there, because they're all all media is basically owned by, I think, 6 companies, and other than they didn't want to look as bad as not having it on. I can't think. But the news organizations that are affiliated with the A&E network, I don't know who exactly they are, but I'm sure there's got to be one of them. It's NBC, CBS, CNN, one of them. How about doing a story on Leah's first episode that has two now adults that were raped, by the Scientology system and Scientology members, and then the church covered it up. That's what I want to see on the nightly news, not some guy in a jetpack or Trump's 11th cousin that went to Russia, one time, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what we said.
They're I just came up with a reason why A&E might be allowing this. Maybe they want some of the heat on Scientology because A&E is owned by Disney, and maybe they want some of the maybe they want some of the attention taken off of their their programming that Honeybee has uncovered, and other people. Man. And that they're grooming our kids too for child rape, So and then, they're like that. All these these elite scumbag organizations, they'll sell their mother down the river. If they can take the light off them, and throw another one to the wolves, they'll do it. They have no morals or no scruples of any kind. Yep, Google. Sticky Hammer's going off on the Twitter line about Google. Yeah, and that's why I keep saying duck, duck, go, because I don't use Google anymore. I don't. They're another part of this, And unfortunately, they own YouTube, and we might be live streaming on YouTube, but fuck them. That's the way I look at it. We'll stay on there until they take us off. Right? Uh-huh.
So,
I'm getting trolled on Twitter, and I'm.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm getting a little upset.
Nice. Is it a Scientology troll? I can't believe Scientology.
No, it's another. She started out with a bunch of other. But you're it's not just necessarily directed at me. It's directed at a bunch of people, but the word crazy comes up in his tweet every time. But it's another one of these guys, joined Twitter in 2010, has 43 followers, 2,000 tweets. 7 years you've tweeted like 2,000 times. Maybe like 300 a year, one tweet a day. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the block from Scientology for the Traffick report. That hasn't happened yet. I remember when Leah's show, and this was before the Traffic report came out, a year ago or more, I was tweeting in support of the show, and I'm proudly, Fireman John 628 is proudly blocked by Scientology. So I'm waiting for that. We're still, somehow the Traffic report has escaped that so far, but I'm sure it's coming. But that's what they do. That's what they do. And I was tweeting directly at Tom Cruise and Scientology. I got to look up some of those tweets because they're great. I mean, they're really great. That stupid medal that he got with that uncomfortable hug and handshake with Miscavige. Somebody made it about like 3 times the size. It looks like a license plate, hanging around his neck.
Oh yeah. It's the lifetime. The lifetime.
Fuck stick award. Yeah. And I was tweeting that at him. There's this it's an old picture, and they actually did this on this creep ship that went around the world. They would tie people up, these young kids, and throw them overboard for discipline. So I had Tom's picture and that picture together, and I was tweeting them out. I'll have to dig some of those up because you get a kick out of some of those. Maybe here we go. The music got us.
All right.
Glad to be back, my friend. Thank you. See you next Tuesday with a new topic.
Thursday.
Oh, Thursday with a new topic. Maybe we'll
talk that long.